With that, we bring in former Chicago Police Superintendent Gary McCarthy. He has also served as Deputy Commissioner in the NYPD and is now Police Chief in Willow Springs, Illinois. Long-time dedicated public servant. Gary, good to have you with us today. Thank you very much, Superintendent, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to play this from the former Chicago Mayor, Lori Lightfoot, and get your response to this, sir.
If he really cared about violent crime, go after the gun manufacturers who are just mass producing these weapons and have no liability or accountability. Go after the gun stores that know that they're selling to straw purchasers that flood into our city. Pass common sense gun reform that we have been begging for decades.
Superintendent, what's your response to that?
Well, first of all, none of these people are criminologists. Crime is a multifaceted issue. Gun control would certainly help. Stopping the flow of legal guns going into the illegal market would certainly help. But by the same token, it's dizzying to watch this game of ping pong that's going on. And, you've got a mayor here in Chicago who can't speak 3 sentences without saying black and brown people, yet he's taking those resources away from them like ShotSpotter. Those were not deployed on Michigan Avenue. They were deployed in the south and the west side of Chicago. He took that away, refusing to take more resources, which, by the way, I'm not sure what the National Guard is doing in D.C., but something seems to be working. If I were Larry Snelling, the police superintendent, who honestly I have not heard a word from regarding this, they probably have him duct tape in a basement somewhere. He should come up with a plan and say, look, we could use them for presence, deployment, maybe stop some retail theft. They're not going to be handling calls for service. They're not going to be doing street stops. They're not going to be doing car stops. But what they can do is deploy it. Apparently, it seems to be helping. I'd like to know exactly what they're doing in D.C. because I'd like to learn why it's working and how it's working.
Yeah, there are some reports that they're, cleaning up certain areas. And it seems to me that one of President Trump's sort of favorite tactics is just deterrence. And they have this presence on the street, which seems to be acting as a deterrent for people to act up or to break into retail stores. Listen to this from this interesting exchange with Governor Pritzker. Watch this.
54 shot, 7 dead.
Yeah.
They're going to say the city's not safe. Would you ask your friends to ride the L after midnight or after, 9 o'clock at night even to come down to the city from O'Hare?
Look, big cities have crime. There's no doubt about it. But let's just pay attention to what President Trump is doing targeting Chicago. He's overlooking red states that have much higher crime rates.
Yeah, I want to back that up, if I may, with this from Zoe Lee, who's a Chicago resident and founder of Chicago Flips Red. Watch this.
They don't understand law and they don't understand order. The fact of seeing seniors getting killed, our children getting killed, mothers getting killed, young men getting killed, and we are not getting any help at all. It's starting to become normalized, and that is not normal.
What do you think of the response of Governor Pritzker there when he says, look, big cities have crime?
Yeah, well, it's our job to try and prevent it from happening. Not just us in the police world, but them in government. And walking along the lakefront at sunrise is a very safe thing to do. But I also found it astounding that Governor Pritzker yesterday went to Little Village, which is a primarily Hispanic neighborhood. And at the end of the day, he was talking about how safe it is. Well, ICE has been working there for 9 months. That might have something to do with the fact that they've got a 55% reduction in violent crime in Little Village. So, it's a multifaceted issue. Like I said, you do this, you do that, and different things happen. It's like a laboratory. You add this, you take that away. And that's how we reduce crime. It's multifaceted. Nobody's thinking in those terms. It's very simple. Put the cops on the dots, put the National Guard on the dots, and let's see what happens. But you know what? I would take the resources, even though it would rub me a little bit the wrong way, because I don't want something somebody else doing my
Right.
job.
I mean, the D.C. mayor basically she's saying, if it makes us safer, if the numbers go down, let's work together on it. And it seems like that's a very reasonable, I mean, any mayor should want the lowest crime numbers possible in their city to keep the people safe. Gary McCarthy, thank you very much. Former Chicago Police Superintendent. Always good to have you with us, sir. Thanks.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.